This is Total Warhead, and welcome to a tips and tricks guide here in Total War Warhammer 3. This one is with Danny and how you should dedicate your points if you're going for a dedicated to a god role in the campaign, like I have done here by going for Nurgle. This guide applies if you go and apply yourself to Khorne, Slaanesh, and Tzeentch. So the question is, how would you actually set up your points as you're progressing through the campaign? Number one, I would go for the all glory gained, but mainly I would do this in order to get plus 30 diplomatic relations with the non-chaos aligned demonic factions. The main reason for going for this is so you can get peace with the Norscan factions around you that you start out a war with, which is 2 of them, so you can solely focus on expanding where you want to without having additional enemies you do not need in the picture, and therefore also focus your armies on the Kislev based enemies that come from the southeast. After doing this, I would just dedicate a single point to get to the next tier and just get plus 8 growth in local province, and from there get plus 5 casualty replenishment, or sorry, campaign movement range, which is invaluable. And then for emergency purposes, I like to get lightning strike because there might be a scenario where Kislev sends to you 4 armies and taking them out one by one, even if your stamina is low, is invaluable and still useful, even though lightning strike works the way it does in Total War Warhammer 3. I wouldn't spend any points in upkeep reduction here because you can actually make your own army if you dedicate it to a respective god for free without spending any of these points here. These points are a complete waste at this time in the campaign unless you go for undivided, but I would argue that there's better ways to spend a total of 18 points in your skills. Now, after going for that, we still want to improve diplomatic relations. We go for the Tzeentch level 1 here of this column, and then we want to make sure we can actually get to the next tier of Tzeentch. So I spend 4 points on reducing my reinforcement movement marker by 75% faction-wide. So whenever I move my reinforcement marker, this is very good for manipulating your deployments in like siege battles. So the enemy has less defensive supplies to build up towers because you're going to come into the battle much faster with a reinforcement army. If your main army is very small, you could potentially cause the AI to deploy a lot of its units on one side, and then your main army comes from an entire different side of the battle. Some people call it cheese, but it's a way to go through early game as Danny. Now, after that, we don't necessarily care about the upkeep reductions for Tzeentch units if we dedicate ourselves to another god. But the reason why we go for this point is so we can get plus 15 diplomatic relations with all factions. Now, why is this so valuable? Why am I going for this? Because getting plus 45 diplomatic relations with chaos-based factions is great because you can actually vassalize the demonic factions in this campaign. So if we look here, right, and we look at, for example, Kugath and Kairos, they're both actually my vassals at this time. The Disciples of the Maw, with the benefit of having positive diplomatic relations with me, became my first vassal in the campaign. Now, a little trick for you to know when you're trying to vassalize people or factions is that you can actually, you can actually trade settlements when you're trying to vassalize people, which is actually freaking broken that you can even do that. So if you want to do become vassal, you do this, and then you go trade settlement, and you go, hey, I'm gonna trade you one of these weird settlements. And this can actually get you closer to becoming a vassal. And if you have extra diplomatic relations, that helps you with that as well. After getting this diplomatic relations bonus, I would stop right here unless I were to actually dedicate myself to Tzeentch. And then I would just go for all of these points up here, like all the points. Depending on which god you dedicate yourself to, you go for all the other points that you see around here. Now, I want to stop there because there's other invaluable points to go for. Depending on which guy you dedicate yourself to, by the time you get all these points, you're getting to the mid game. You want to start strengthening your armies as much as you can. Now it's time, if you go for example for Nurgle, to stab boost your own units. And then I also like to make sure I get additional chance of getting Nurgle glory point abilities in battle. So I get noxious abilities, and then I get the upkeep reduction for the units I will have in the campaign. And I want to get this point Unholy Resilience because it helps Danny if he gets very weak after a battle to fully replenish, especially if you haven't dedicated yourself yet to a god, meaning that you won't get to the max casualty rate cap. So getting this extra 30% for Danny is really valuable. After this, of all these units that you see here, the invaluable ones to stat boost here are the Beasts of Nurgle. They're gonna be really essential for you, even in the late game, to munch through infantry units. Then, depending on the god you want to align yourself with, now is the time, as you're getting to mid to late game, to stat boost the hell out of them. So here, we start going, okay, we need to start spending points, man. We're starting to go all out. So we go for all of the Nurgle units because I want to get all of the Great Unclean Ones and the Soul Grinders as stat boosted as possible. Now the last thing is, what do I want to spend money on? What is the last couple of points I want to spend? So I want to get plus 12% success chance of all hero actions faction wide. This is so freaking invaluable, especially in late game where you might be at war with many factions from multiple directions, to get you a very good extra success chance faction wide to assault units, assault garrisons, and assassinate other factions heroes. And then finally, I want to get plus 15% income from sacking settlements. When you sack a tier 5 region as Danny, you can get about $32,000. Now you can get 15% extra over that, which is really good. You can get about $4,500 more dollars. Dude, every single time you sack a major region, 4,500 more bucks. That is invaluable and a really good thing to go for as you keep expanding throughout, for example, dangerous locations like Cathay, which actually has a lot of major regions bundled up right next to each other. That's actually a very good scenario for you to actually get a lot of money, as well as you sack your way through Kislev and cause a lot of damage on the enemy. So anyways, that is it for me here. Oh, and if you're wondering, you're like, what the hell happened to your army, dude? I auto-resolved, all right? Yeah, okay, I did it, all right? I auto-resolved. Just don't judge me, okay? And yeah, so that is it for me. And little tidbit, if you dedicate yourself to the god since patch 1.1 and you actually have bloodletting maxed out, you can actually recruit all of the units that you have unlocked recruitment for at only one turn for anybody that has bloodletting maxed out. And the Great Unclean Ones only take 2 turns to build. So that is it for me here. I really want to thank y'all for watching, and I hope to see y'all on the next one. Bye bye.